We try not to put a ton of tags for each field. What we do, like with the mood tag, with the mood field, we usually do about maybe 6 to 8 tags. Depends on the aggregator. Like I've had some people say, okay, you can't use more than this amount of tags, because then what happens is they don't come up. They just get cut off. So, but you should find out whoever you're working with, if it's a sub-publisher or whatever, ask them. Sometimes they have standards about how many characters you can put in each field. So that's probably important, but I'd say standard for moods, I would do 6 to 8, including textures. When it comes to subgenres, I'd say no more than 4. And then also, sometimes you're dealing with featured instruments, instrumentation. This is a tricky one, because I've had some clients want all of the instruments, and then I've had some clients say just the featured ones. And I think most of the time, I'm just tagging featured instruments, and that seems to be better, because if I'm doing a rock album, it's just going to be, it's known. There's going to be bass, there's going to be drums, and you don't want to put all of the things that are, you're going to have in a rock song. You would want to put the instruments that come up in the mix more, and the instruments that have the melodic, the melodic content. Those are really important.
I was going to just add one more thing before we get to know. As far as alternate versions go, I would copy and paste all your metadata onto all your alt versions and have a column that says version full mix, drums only, no bass, no vocals, whatever it might be, and have all the metadata with all of them. Because you never know, someone may type in some words, maybe it'll say, if you type in, rock, drums, your no drum will come up because drum is the word. But then they might want to listen to the other one as an alt. So always copy that metadata for all your versions, have a separate column that says what the version is, so that they know. A lot of people will use the title, and then in parentheses put the version, which is also acceptable too, if you want to do that. No?
Exactly what I was asking to ask.
Oh.
You read my mind.
What? Yeah.
You said comma separated value of genres, just one word. What about styles and moods? Is that okay, putting like 3 or 4?
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, definitely. Styles and moods should have comma-separated values with every tag that you use. You always want to do, heartbreak, comma, heartache, comma, followed with a space. Yeah, definitely.
I agree with that. Please.
I would refer to as balls deep in our metadata at the moment, trying to sort it all out, so I need to calm Marina. But just going back to one of the examples used earlier on, it was like a trap, but halfway through there was piano and strings. Now I find if I type piano and strings and somebody types in simply piano and strings and hits return, they're going to be disappointed for is there a workaround? How do you stop that from happening?
Well, you know what? Here's the thing with something like that. And that's why I put it in gray, because it's subjective. We don't know if you really want. But if that song was chopped up in alt mixes, alts, that would be a good portion to actually just chop up and say piano, strings, orchestral hybrid. It's a development part that can be used as a bumper or something. So it just depends on how you choose to view it when you're listening to it. I personally probably would not have put it in, just because it's a really small little part of it. It's not the compositional dominant part of the song, but it's still there. So it's still like lingering in your head going, should I do it? Shouldn't I do it? But like I said, if you're going to use it for an alt mix and just cut that particular part, then I would say, yeah, then it's important that it's described as what it is.
We're talking tagging the alt mix is slightly different than that.
Well, here's what I would do. First of all, in source audio, you get a waveform for every song, right? So if you put, trap, and then there's piano strings and an orchestral, and they start to play the first 10 seconds and nothing's happening, you're going to see further down the line that the waveform gets bigger. And anyone who doesn't start to click through the song to listen to it isn't worth their salt as a mixer or a music supervisor or whatever. Everyone's going to do that, You also have the ability on some platforms like ours to put notations in various places, little triangles. This is where the drums kick in, this is where the bass kicks in. You can do that as well. Whatever's in a song at any point, at any time, I would put it in there. You're going to see that waveform get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then tail out. you know, have a stop down in it, all those things. And so they should be able to see that pre-planned. Go ahead, Bill.
Everything seems to be very generic in terms of keywords. But if you say, for example, AC/DC action sports, that seems to me a lot more defined and more descriptive. Would the editors and supervisors actually type in AC/DC action sports?
I believe they would, depending on who your client is. If you're working for a sports channel or a network that does sports, they get very granular. If it's the college finals, they have the East Coast semi-conference finals, they're going to type in East Coast. There's something about those different areas they're going to want to hear. So I would do that. You know, you may not use that metadata in the general world of music licensing, but if you've got a sports client who does sports, you know, either advertising or broadcasting, bumpers and all those things, absolutely. But you bring up another good point, and that's something about using bands as references, okay? So here's my opinion about that. Sound-alikes. It's okay to put sound-alikes in there. It's okay to put AC/DC or Def Leppard or whatever in the music if you've got a hard rock song, right? If you have a song that sounds like a Def Leppard song, or it sounds like a specific AC/DC song, I wouldn't put that as visible metadata, because now you're really asking for some trouble. Some platforms allow you to hide data. You can hide a field, so if someone types in AC/DC, it will come up, but there's no visible metadata that says AC/DC. But if you're just talking about general hard rock, 70s, you know, do that, of course.
I just want to add something really quick regarding that. Like general tags, when we're tagging, we're dealing with so many different types of clients with so many different types of music. But the thing that we're creating right now is a platform that will be customizable, that you can actually add or replace the keywords that we have with something that's either more defined and descriptive to what your library offers and what you know. So those are the things that we want to like present to libraries, so that way they do have an edge of it's their metadata and they understand it and they know how to search within their internally and how to pick things out. So I just wanted to mention that.
Go ahead, please.
Hi, question for Marina and a comment for Dan.
Okay.
You used to work at Trailer Park.
You're right.
And the very interesting, it's excellent idea this guy has to ask the editors which words they use. That is brilliant. But at Trailer Park, you call them, they won't tell you who the editors are. That information is classified. Now, I was able to get it because I know people who work there. So the big trailer houses, it's hard to reach the editors. But, you know, there's editor societies, and that is a terrific advice. Thank you for that. And regarding sports, I have literally interviewed hundreds of music supervisors, and I always ask them in these pitch sessions, how would you describe that? Because I want to know how they classify and qualify music, and what they're looking for is swagger, clean, clearable, upbeat hip-hop. Those are the two hottest trends right now. And we have a pitch session with the music supervisor at Fox Sports this week, if you're interested, next week, if you're interested. Okay, so sorry about that. The question for Marina is, this tagging software that you created, is that something that can be applied on a catalog or a more than one song basis? Because what the problem is, as the British gentleman said, he's, I quote, balls deep. And the problem in doing it accurately is it's so much work if you've got tons of songs. Is your system going to ease this pain by making it faster to do more songs more quickly?
Yeah, the way we have it set up is we have, based on how you tag the basic part of the song, how you tag your genres and your subgenres, we'll give you preset tags from there.
Like a template.
Yeah, it's a platform. It's a template that you're actually tagging on.
Okay.
We're actually, I was saying we're doing some machine learning so we can actually embed it into the actual MP3 as well. So then it's more like matching WAV files. But we're not quite there yet. But what we do internally and with my team is we do. I do a certain section, which is genres and subgenres, and those subgenres are actually pulling out preset tags for your styles, preset tags for your moods, preset tags for your instruments. So they're already appearing to where if you can have a tagger actually be more of an editor to make sure it looks right. And if it's not, you can easily edit it or delete and add something different if you need to. And the keywords themselves are customizable. So if you don't like extreme sports and you want to change it, or action sports to ACD action sports, you can do that.
So are you using some of the Pandora technology? No?
Not quite yet. We're working on that, but that's we at this point what we're doing is the platform itself is not connected to the WAV files or to any of the audio. It's separate from the audio at this point. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, my question is actually in relation to the artificial intelligence and fingerprinting, like companies DMCA, Force, and Montgomery. Basically, I'm curious how deep you guys are going, planning on going for the categories and subcategories, and is it through, are you sourcing the audio and trying to just take a collection of audio and then labeling with tags and then associating that with the new audio coming in?
So it would be associated with the audio, with the new audio that's coming in based on how, at this point, we're still really collecting a lot of data. We need so much data before we can actually have really good patterns and really good machine learning. So we're at this phase right now, so the more that we tag and the more that we are going through libraries of 3,000 to 5,000 to 10,000 tracks, all of that data is being collected, like with the SQL and stuff like that. And so we can either do data analytics, or I'm working with a data scientist, which is a little bit, it's like more of a first step instead of using data analytics. That will help find those patterns. And once we have those patterns, we can do some of that already, automation based on those, the patterns that we've been tagging.
And to go into the point about metadata being kind of like a live animal, you do want to consistently re-edit metadata. Some sites like Source Audio allow you to go in and look at the terms that people are using when they search. So as a statistic, you can see what they're searching for. And if you see terms that you don't have frequently in your metadata, you can start applying it back into your metadata. However, if it doesn't apply, don't apply it. So if swagger is a great term for basketball, college basketball, and you don't have any music that really sounds like swagger, go out and get some swagger music and then tag it and put it in. That's always the best way.
What do you think about different spelling? I mean, we have our catalog worldwide. There's British spelling, there's American spelling. So what do we do? And in the case you said heartbreak, the client puts in heartbreaking. What happens?
Talk about spelling?
Somebody brought up a really important thing about, I think what is good is to have maybe more than one way of saying it. And you can use, I think it was, somebody had talked to me about using CSI and investigative, because like a lot of people from other libraries from a different country don't understand what CSI is sometimes. But if you can lump that with investigative, then it's more like understandable across the board. So it's finding probably words that maybe mean the same, but that are synonymous, that work across the board. But you want to use as many as you can, I guess, especially if you're coming from another country and all that.
And some of the search engines will know that if you type in COLLOUR, it's synonymous with CLOR. But there's nothing wrong with putting both words in the data next to each other, if that's what you feel you need to do. But again, know your client. If you have a British client and you know the spellings for certain words, descriptions are different, use those terms. Put them in like that, or double up. And like I said before, you can translate your metadata into other languages and roll it into spreadsheets. Do you do translations at TechData? No. Go ahead.
Along the same line, what about words that could be 2 words or 1 word, or hyphenated or something like that, like something like West Coast? You put 1 word, 2 words, spaces?
How do you guys do it?
Well, you could do space, as long as you have the comma separated thing going on, it's going to read together.
West and coast.
Right, you can do west, we usually do west space coast, comma separated.
How do you do hip hop? That's a big one that always gets
I just
everyone
do
confused.
hip space hop.
No hyphen.
To the hippie. So, I mean, that's, then commas, space. But,
Okay.
I don't like to use hyphens because a lot of times, depending on how you're ingesting whatever database you're using, if you're using SoundMine or something like that, it can have a hiccup and may not work. So I really try to stay away from hyphens. Sometimes slashes aren't going to work out. It's probably best not to use certain characters.
Do you find that that's true also in titling? Because a lot of people will use an apostrophe or a strange character in the title of their song, not recognizing or realizing that that's going to make it harder to find and to match, especially in payment, systems and administration.
Yeah.
What do you recommend with that?
I would say really it depends on the aggregator. So like whoever you're working with, if you're working with Harvest, if you're working with Source Audio, or if you're working with SoundMiner, to really know what their practices are, because everyone's different. And I don't really know when it comes to the titles, if those characters are going to mess things up. They probably will, is my guess.
I wouldn't do it. If it's a rocking good time, just put an N with no apostrophe.
Yeah, that's what I recommend, but I wondered what you
I
thought.
think that's best.
You haven't talked about the description of the tune, the
Oh.
sentence form. I use one sentence only.
Right, I agree. Yes, that is probably that takes the longest time when we're tagging a song is doing the sentence descriptions. And we've actually we've generated an actual sentence structure, a couple of different structures. So it's kind of like Mad Libs. So we have like all of the metadata, all of the tags that we've used. We have a way of getting some synonyms from those particular tags that we can actually use for the sentence description. So then you have a little bit more robust tags, robust words that are being used across the board. But a good sentence structure, that's what we use. Sentence structure will do texture and texture with instrument creates a mood or whatnot. So if you can just get into a type of structure, it can go a lot quicker that way. And that's kind of how we call it a sentence builder, and it builds sentences for us. So we still have to edit it. It has to make sense. So if it doesn't make sense, we have to tweak it and fix it and make it sound right. But I would totally not make long paragraphs for your descriptions. I mean, it's a lot of time.
I mean, the interesting
Nobody's
thing about
gonna do
descriptions
that.
is that when they're in a search engine and you're typing words in the query, it's just looking for words. It doesn't know ideas. Search engines don't know ideas. But where they really come in handy is when you find a piece of music that you like and you want to search for more music like it, you're going to read that description and find more terms in there to start putting into the search window, and then rerun the search or rerun the search and get more granular about what you're finding, more accurate.
You want to avoid once upon a time in a land far away.
Unicorns. Go ahead.
I heard some music supervisors talking about how they wish that once they found a track they liked, there was an easier way to just say tracks that are similar.
Well, they don't know Source Audio very well then, because we have similar track searches.
Well, I was going to say, but to benefit your own library, would it make sense to put in the song titles of tracks in your own library that are similar to that track in the metadata?
You could do that. I mean, it's not necessary in Source Audio, because what happens is, if you find a piece of music on Source Audio that you like, there's a roll down, and you can say, find similar tracks based on metadata. So it's just going to search metadata that's similar to the metadata of that track, and find more like it. But that will also include the label, catalog, composer. It's going to look at all that data and find similar tracks based on all that data. Yes, please.
It might sound elementary, but you want all the metadata to be embedded on the audio file, right?
You can't have all the metadata embedded on the audio file. You have, mostly ID3 tag information. The most important stuff is the name of the cue, composer, the publisher, catalog name.
And the rest would happen at the search engine level.
Correct. It's applied via the metadata on the spreadsheet. So you upload the music in Source Audio, you upload the file. It extracts as much metadata from the ID3 tag as it can possibly find and populates that. Then you take the spreadsheet that Marina would supply and roll it in, and then it will match and populate all the data.
Yeah, that's a big question I get from a lot of people that ask me, do you embed the metadata onto the actual file and on the audio itself? And there's no ID3 wrapper that's going to take all of that metadata that we offer and put it on there. It's maybe someday, I don't know. I know that, I think it's SoundMiner also, in Source Audio, you can have it embedded, but it only takes what like iTunes would do, a certain genre, maybe sub-genre.
My main question was like, that's what I would probably do is like iTunes, but is there a better way than just like that?
You can use iTunes, you can use Source Audio. Source Audio will embed the file metadata upon download. So if you have a file with absolutely zero metadata in it, you can map which fields you want to be embedded or injected into the metadata stream, and then into the file, and then it will download and we'll have that on there. So then you can throw it into iTunes and you'll see metadata on there.
What do I get one of those spreadsheets? To make my
You can make your own spreadsheets. Get an Excel. You have Excel? Yeah. They have spreadsheets that are already formatted.
You know, it's an interesting topic. One thing we didn't talk about is file names. Do you do any file name data editorial? When you get files, you just leave them the same as the client gives them
We
to
leave
you?
them the same as we don't mess with the file names at all.
Okay.
No.
Always remember that it's absolutely possible for a file to be downloaded from a search engine, input it into an Avid or some editorial machine, and now it's got no metadata, it's got nothing but the file. So they want to backtrack. Now in Source Audio, you can take the file name and load it in and it will do a reverse search, but not on all systems. So in the file name, you've got to have something in there that lets the editor or producer or music supervisor know where that came from, whether it's 3 or 4 letters that represent the name of your company or something like that, that they can at least grab something onto, rather than 001478, down there, because they just come nutsy cuckoo when that happens. Yes, please.
Just to circle back to track title and alternate tracks and adding additional information like drums only. I've seen, A, B, C, I've seen 30, 60, 15, I've seen V1, V2, and all sorts of different things. I'd be interested to hear what you guys' opinion is on sort of a best practice. What should you put in or what shouldn't you put into a track title?
Well, I think that parentheses, submix information is perfectly fine. I would not name them all the same and have them be different things. I mean, if you want to put main mix and then mix A, B, C, and then in another column you put the actual version of what that is, whether it's the 15, the 30, the 1 minute, and then the no drums and no bass. When I'm searching for music, and I often search for music, I like to see parentheses in the title with the actual submix information there. It makes it easier for me.
I think it's really key if you have stems, if you can somehow, let people like me know, because it really helps when when we do our tagging, because we're usually just going to be tagging the main track, and then if there is a really good approach to how you're tagging the stems, then we can easily stem fill all of the metadata onto those tracks. And then, if we know there's no drums, then we can easily, take out all of the instruments that are not actually there for that particular track. So the best, if you have a really good way of titling your stems, then that's helpful for someone like me. So I know if it doesn't tell me, or if I can't make a filter to find all of those particular ones, then it's not going to be as consistent on my end. So filtering is a really big issue with us when we're doing alts, stems. It's key for us to do the minor edits for the alt mixes.
Don't be shy with the alts. I mean, I like to see catalogs with lots of alts. And the ones that do seem to get a lot more licenses in some regard. Yes, please.
On Source Audio, what I also see it on Harvest, if you take from a French publisher, it's got all that and those sorts of things. A lot of the times it gets corrupted when we have to download the metadata. A lot of the time it gets corrupted. Is there any way that somehow we can figure out an English way you can handle those formats or those sort of things?
So you have metadata on the site that's not in English. It's being embedded in the file, and upon download, it's not.
It might just be a French composer track that's got those funny characters in it, and it corrupts the whole thing.
Well, for our purposes, we'd have to do that on a one-off basis. You have to give me the file, let me see what's going on. We have to analyze it, see exactly what's going to happen, and try and make a fix for it on Source Audio. So we can fix it, but I just have to see the particular instance that's happening and try and figure out what's going on. Go ahead, Jared wants to say something from Source Audio.
I can answer that question. Usually it has to be how the data is encoded, so what type of program you use to save that in. So someone like Excel is notoriously bad at encoding random characters in a proper UTF-8 format that other applications can read properly. So it might look well in Excel, but then when you translate that, it's not the actual character on a deeper level is not proper. So usually to kind of solve that, what you can do is you can specifically save in a UTF-8 format. So Excel does, newer versions of Excel, when you save as, it does say save as a CSV, and then in parentheses it says UTF-8. So that's a way that you can proceed with that. I'm happy to talk to you.
UTF-8
Was that? UTF-8, yeah, UTF-8. It's just like a standardized character format.
Thanks, Jared. I think we're out of time. Well, one more question. Go ahead.
Yes,
Last question.
when adding the initial ID3 data to a track, do you have any suggestions on software other than iTunes to use to add the audio file?
Aside from Source Audio, I don't. If anyone in the room does, you know, I don't. Or is it-
And I've actually done research out there, and I can't seem to find anything that is direct and, you know, like that, yeah, you can do this. I don't know, maybe someday we will be able to do it, I don't know.
I mean, when we do the masters, I can do it in WaveLab, but it's really cumbersome to add each. I have a spreadsheet, I just want to,
Just use file transfer
Yeah.
on Source, dump all your files out that way. If you can. Thank you very much for listening to us. I really appreciate it.